Stop everything and confront this cold, strategic diagnosis. The vast majority of men mistake frantic activity for true value. They wear their busyness like a badge of honor, answering every call, attending every meeting, and rushing everywhere. But this is not a sign of high status. It is a public confession of low value and a profound lack of control. The man who is perpetually busy is merely signaling that his time is cheap, easily accessible, and entirely disposable to external demands. This frantic chase for activity is the busy man's illusion. The psychological engine of true status operates on the scarcity principle. What you are chasing, you desperately need. What you deny, others chase relentlessly. If your schedule is universally open, your time is perceived as worthless. The powerful understand that their most valuable asset is their focused attention, and they guard it with surgical intensity. They project not mere busyness, but strategic scarcity, the deliberate, unyielding posture that their time is high-cost capital. This illusion is lethal because it blinds you to what truly matters. Machiavelli defined the metric of strategic memory. Men sooner forget the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony. Applied to your life, this means that the world will immediately forget your emotional effort. They only remember the tangible result or the cost of the loss. If you are too busy running in place, you are accumulating noise, not wealth. This video is the blueprint for replacing the fatal flaw of constant activity with the absolute power of focused, visible scarcity. Are you ready to stop confessing your low value and start commanding respect? Now, drop this affirmation in the comments and commit to the discipline. My time is gold. I trade effort for results. Law 1. The scarcity trap, the first foundational law in dismantling the busy man's illusion, is the structural enforcement of the scarcity trap. This law mandates that you must surgically control your visibility and your immediate availability. For the structural reality of the market is that universal availability and perpetual presence automatically translate into low value. You are profoundly mistaken if you believe that constant accessibility earns respect. Strong men understand the devastating, silent power of strategic absence. Your goal is to transform yourself from a readily available asset into a prized, high-demand commodity by making your time a high-cost resource. This principle operates universally, dictated by the immutable psychology of scarcity. The friend who is always available becomes utterly taken for granted, their time viewed as worthless background noise. The individual who is selective, difficult to access, and deliberate with their time instantly becomes appreciated and highly sought after. The man who responds to every text message instantly signals desperation and a profound lack of higher priorities, while the man who executes a calculated delay signals high value because he is genuinely busy pursuing greater, more important objectives. Strong men understand that scarcity is the fundamental engine of value. When you render yourself universally accessible, instantly responding, and always available, you become common, predictable, and ultimately forgettable. Machiavelli warned against the peril of overexposure, stating the principle that governs all external valuation. Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. This means that since people cannot verify the complexity of your work behind the scenes, they will judge your worth based on the immediate, visible metrics. If they see you constantly available, they assume your importance is low. You must train your environment to respect your schedule, or your competence will be dismissed. Your strategic mandate is to learn to withdraw strategically to command demand. You must execute strategic withdrawal in every domain, making your time, energy, and mental focus non-negotiable capital. You must eliminate time leakage. If a colleague sends a non-urgent email, the weak man replies in 5 minutes, setting a fatal expectation of instant availability. The strategist replies only after a calculated delay of several hours, often signaling the response was deliberately prioritized outside of deep work time. This is not rudeness. This strategically teaches the recipient that your time is a high-cost resource that must be scheduled and respected, forcing them to prioritize their next message to you. You are actively training your environment. You must eliminate the pattern of being reliably accessible. You transform yourself into a commodity that is prized by picking and choosing when and where you appear. When you are invited to low-value social gatherings, you decline firmly, citing deep focus on projects. When you do agree to an interaction, ensure it is deliberate and end the conversation on your terms, leaving the other party wanting more. This creates a powerful psychological deficit, a vacuum of your presence, that compels people to initiate the next contact and makes them want more of you, not less. Imagine a scenario where your time is put to the test, highlighting a key strategic difference. In the first, a colleague asks for a last-minute favor that will take 2 hours of your focused attention. You respond immediately, saying, "Sure, I can squeeze that in right now, no problem." This response, however, positions you as a disposable resource, a predictable safety net, and transforms their immediate crisis into your long-term burden. In contrast, a strategic approach involves responding thoughtfully. I can look at my calendar. Given my current priorities, I can allocate 25 minutes to this on Thursday afternoon. This reply forces the colleague to respect your existing commitments, adhere to a fixed duration, and recognize the interaction as a high-value engagement rather than a casual favor. By doing so, you retain control over your most valuable asset, your time. This structural shift ensures that you are seen as an essential asset who must be pursued, not a guaranteed presence who can be ignored. Every time you successfully execute a controlled absence, you add another layer of psychological weight to your eventual appearance. Your absence is an active strategic tool. Use it to increase your value. Law 2. The power of intentional inaction. The second law in dismantling the busy man's illusion is the mastery of the power of intentional inaction. This is the necessary discipline of strategically using stillness, silence, and calculated non-response to fundamentally compel respect and generate irresistible psychological interest. The busy man, driven by internal anxiety and the fear of missing out, operates on an emotional hair trigger. He reacts immediately, speaks first, and responds to every provocation. In doing so, he surrenders the one resource that governs the outcome of any interaction, the time and space for calculation. The ruthless strategist understands that movement does not equal progress. Often, inaction is the most decisive strategic move available. This philosophy finds its root in Machiavelli's analysis of efficient action. The wise man does at once what the fool does finally. In the context of conflict, the fool acts impulsively, driven by immediate emotion, and suffers the eventual predictable consequences. The wise man, however, executes the necessary control at once. He immediately imposes stillness and silence, preventing the self-inflicted wound and preserving his capacity to strike strategically later. The core mechanism of intentional inaction is the psychological vacuum you create. When you meet a challenge, an aggressive question, or a high-pressure demand with absolute stillness and strategic non-response, you deny the adversary the expected fuel for their performance. This inaction instantly starves their brain of the anticipated emotional feedback, forcing them into a state of rising psychological discomfort and anxiety. They begin to frantically question their own position, their own certainty, and the validity of their attack. Silence is not merely a non-response, it is an active, aggressive form of psychological pressure. When they encounter your unreadable stillness, They interpret the pause as deep contemplation, calculation, or, most potently, as a chilling sign that you possess superior information. They become compelled to fill the void, often revealing critical intelligence, offering premature concessions, or foolishly escalating their rhetoric, thereby exposing their true, vulnerable hand. To execute the power of intentional inaction, you must master the following tactical blueprint. When provoked, your first absolute mandate is to impose a strategic pause. Do not speak. Do not shift your posture. Control your breathing. This stillness breaks the reflex link between stimulus and surrender. In professional exchanges, non-response is a sign of high value. You must eliminate the expectation of instant availability. A non-critical email or text should be met with a calculated delay. The purpose is not to be rude, but to train your environment that your focus is a resource that must be respected, scheduled, and earned. The delayed response makes your eventual input more valuable. In high-tension arguments, meet emotional outbursts with an unblinking, unreadable gaze. Force the aggressor to spend their energy in a vacuum. Your stillness disorients them and compels them to lower their intensity to match your unwavering calm, allowing you to seize control of the frame. Never rush to explain your decisions or fill conversational gaps just because they exist. When you withhold your rationale, you force others to speculate on the depth of your thinking, which increases their perceived respect for your intelligence. Consider a scenario where a subordinate fails to deliver a critical project component on time and attempts to blame external factors. Consider a scenario where a subordinate misses a critical deadline and tries to blame external factors. The foolish response is to immediately dive into the details, demanding a full explanation and wasting 30 minutes debating their excuses, which drains your focus and emotional energy. In contrast, the strategic non-response involves executing the pause. You listen silently without interrupting, keeping a steady, non-committal expression, then calmly say, "I understand the factors involved. The necessary deadline remains. Please confirm how you intend to close the gap." This approach denies them the emotional confrontation they seek, rejects their excuses without argument, and swiftly refocuses the conversation on their non-negotiable responsibility. You win by doing less, not more. The mastery of intentional inaction is the mastery of self-control. By consistently demonstrating that you are not moved by external pressure, you become structurally unpredictable and create an irresistible magnetic interest that compels respect. Law 3. Visible focus. The third law in dismantling the busy man's illusion demands the structural enforcement of visible focus. This is the strategic art of projecting deep, high-level work and concentrated effort in direct opposition to the frantic, low-value signal of relentless multitasking. The busy man broadcasts his low value through constant motion and shallow engagement. The master of scarcity, however, projects calm, intentional direction, ensuring every visible action reinforces the perception of high importance. Machiavelli defined the immutable law of perception. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. This is your mandate, since people judge your worth based on visible cues. You must ensure that your external actions, how you use your time, signal that you are engaged in work of consequence, not merely running in place. The psychology of deep work. Deep work creates the anti-busy signal. When people observe you perpetually focused on a single, complex task, they make two immediate psychological assumptions. They assume the task is so critical and high value that it justifies your complete isolation and refusal to engage in trivial matters. They assume you possess the mental discipline and competence to sustain that level of focus, which is a rare, respected trait. The key is that you must be visibly unhurried, yet unshakably engaged. Frantic motion signals a loss of control. Calm, sustained focus signals sovereign command over your time and priorities. To execute this, you must control the cues you project, control your environment. Physically signal your unavailability for interruptions. Use noise-canceling headphones, a clear sign on your door or desk, or deliberately choose a workspace that is physically separate from low-value foot traffic. This is not about being rude. It is about visually enforcing the high cost of disrupting your concentration. Batch communication. Never appear to be a slave to your devices. Do not answer messages or check email instantly throughout the day. Batch your communication into specific, limited time windows. This visually communicates that you dictate the schedule for your attention and that your primary energy is dedicated to higher-level work. Project deliberate movement. When transitioning between tasks or entering a room, move with measured, unhurried purpose. The frantic, rushing gait of the busy man signals that he is reactive, late, and has no control over his calendar. The powerful individual moves slowly, deliberately, and with the posture of someone who is always early. In a busy corporate environment where the low-value signal of busyness is everywhere, the busy man reacts immediately to Slack messages, lets his phone buzz non-stop, has a cluttered desk covered in half-finished papers, and constantly complains about how little time he has. As a result, he is seen as disorganized, easily distracted, and cheap with his attention, relegated to handling fire drills and low-level administrative tasks. In contrast, the strategist creates visible blocks of deep work from 9 to 11 a.m. and 2 to 4 p.m., setting his status to unavailable. His desk remains clear except for the current project. When asked about his schedule, he calmly explains, "I can allocate 15 minutes to that, but it will have to be after my focus block is complete." This approach immediately associates him with high-level, complex work, and people hesitate to interrupt him because they understand the cost is too high. His time is respected as valuable capital. By projecting deep, intentional focus, you train your environment to respect your time and assume the highest value for your work. You are replacing the easy lie of busyness with the hard truth of disciplined, high-level productivity. Law 4. The quiet. No, the fourth law in dismantling the busy man's illusion demands the structural discipline of the quiet gnome. This is the strategic art of eliminating all self-sabotaging justification, apology, and over-explaining when you decline a request or enforce a necessary boundary. The majority are conditioned to use a torrent of words when saying no, believing that verbosity softens the blow. In reality, your explanation is nothing more than surrendered control. The psychological cost of justification, the urge to explain your boundaries, is a critical psychological leak. It stems from the inner apology, the reflex born from the fear of conflict, and the desperate need to manage the external world's perception of you. When you offer a cascade of details, "I can't because my schedule is crazy, and my dog is sick, and my car is broken," you are providing an adversary with a ready-made script for counter-argument. They immediately seize upon your excuses. "The dog will be fine," or "Can't you just move that other meeting?" Your explanation validates the premise that your time is negotiable, and your no is merely a suggestion awaiting a better reason. Machiavelli defined the stark, unyielding strategic truth of defensiveness. He who excuses himself accuses himself. By engaging in the act of justification, you instantly validate the adversary's authority to judge your decision. You are effectively confirming that you believe your choice is suspect and requires external approval to be legitimate. The strategist must embrace the non-negotiable reality that your internal judgment is sufficient and your sovereignty requires no external defense. To execute the quiet no, you must enforce 3 immediate mandates, replacing the soft language of negotiation with the hard language of finality. Purge all minimizing or defensive language. Ban phrases like, "I'm sorry to say," "just," "maybe," or "I hope you don't mind." These terms hedge your conviction and weaken the entire stance. Your refusal must be concise, direct, and factual. You state the decision. You do not explain the why. The decision is the final product. The rationale is the raw material that must remain hidden. For instance, replace, "I'm sorry, I can't stay late because I have a very important family commitment," with the definitive, "I appreciate the request, but my calendar is closed after 5 p.m." To maintain professionalism without surrendering ground, you offer an alternative that is strictly on your terms and aligns with your schedule. "I can't do it now, but I can review it Tuesday morning," or "I am fully committed for this month, but please check with me next quarter." This asserts control by dictating the solution and the timeline. Imagine a situation where a colleague asks you to take on a low-priority task that would eat up an entire afternoon of your deep work time. The typical response, the apologetic leak, is to say, "I'm really swamped right now and I just can't squeeze it in. But I feel terrible saying no, so maybe I can get to it later tonight." This reply, driven by guilt, triggers the colleague to respond quickly, saying, "Great. Just send it to me tonight." I knew you would come through, causing you to lose your evening and your peace by prioritizing justification over assertion. In contrast, the strategic quiet no involves a calm, immediate response. "I appreciate you asking. My capacity for new tasks this week is committed. I recommend you speak with John, who has availability." This tone remains polite but firm, as you do not explain your schedule, simply state a fact, suggest a solution, and then shift your focus back to high-value work. By doing so, you establish your time as a finite, non-negotiable resource that cannot be breached through mere appeals. By eliminating the need to explain, you conserve immense mental energy, preserve your authority, and force your environment to respect your schedule. Your refusal to apologize for your boundaries is the ultimate expression of self-sovereignty. Law 5. Attraction over pursuit. The fifth crucial strategic pillar you must master is the psychological reversal. This is the necessary discipline of transforming your external presence from one that perpetually chases approval into one that is irresistibly pursued, forcing adversaries and potential allies alike to invest their finite energy and resources in securing your proximity and agreement. This fundamental power dynamic shifts entirely the moment you project genuine indifference to the outcome of their decision. The Machiavellian engine of acquisition, this reversal is founded upon the most primal human drive, as defined by Machiavelli. The desire to acquire is a natural and ordinary thing. The strategist understands that this innate drive is a resource you can actively harness. People are fundamentally motivated to relentlessly pursue that which is challenging, difficult, or scarce to obtain. When you visibly project neediness or desperation, you signal an easy acquisition, and the fundamental desire to acquire you diminishes instantly. When you project a stable, sovereign indifference, you instantly transform yourself into a challenging, high-value prize, and their psychological desire to acquire you increases exponentially. The flaw of chasing and the cost of availability. When you consciously engage in chasing, whether it's a promotion, a client, or a complex relationship, you commit immediate psychological errors. You signal that your time and attention are cheap and abundant, drastically lowering your perceived value. You communicate that your happiness or success is entirely contingent on their yes, immediately handing them the ultimate psychological control and leverage. The psychological reversal demands that you cease all energy expenditure on chasing, and instead devote that energy to becoming the resource that must be chased. This requires a total shift in behavioral projection. You must communicate non-neediness and high value. When you receive a positive signal, an inquiry, praise, or an offer, you must forbid yourself from reacting with immediate, overwhelming enthusiasm. A slight, deliberate pause before acknowledging the offer communicates that you are assessing its true value, not just accepting validation. Maintain a life and focus that is genuinely independent of the adversary's actions. Your time must be visibly scarce. When you are unavailable, it must be because you are pursuing higher priorities, not because you are playing games. This forces the adversary to adjust their schedule to align with your sovereign needs. The most effective way to project indifference is to have genuine options. When your adversary senses that you have viable Plan B and Plan C, they will fight against their fear of loss, compelling them to meet your terms. Consider a scenario where you're selling a high-value, bespoke service to a crucial client who is stalling and demanding steep, unfair price concessions. The chasing fail happens when you desperately follow up every day with new proposals and justifications, revealing your existential need for the contract. This only makes the client feel safe, confident you'll concede more over time, causing you to lose all leverage. In contrast, the strategic reversal, known as the hunted approach, involves sending one firm, final offer, then executing complete controlled silence. You redirect the energy saved into securing another equally high-profile project. When the original client finally reaches out, you respond only after a calculated delay and calmly present a new reality. Our capacity is now limited due to the X project. My original price is now firm, and if we proceed, we start in 3 weeks. This forces the client into a state of panic, as they must quickly accept your original terms, viewing the delay and increased difficulty as undeniable proof of your high value and strong external demand. The individual who stops begging for a favorable outcome and simply asserts a high, unchallengeable standard creates an irresistible magnetic force. Your refusal to be desperate is the ultimate psychological move that compels others to invest their energy in chasing you. Law 6. The unannounced win. The sixth law in dismantling the busy man's illusion demands the structural discipline of the unannounced win. This is the necessary strategic mandate. You must replace the weak, frantic habit of lobbying for credit with the powerful, enduring principle of building a legacy of undeniable results. The moment you finish a major achievement, your instinct will be to shout it from the rooftops, to seek immediate validation, and to ensure everyone knows precisely how clever you were. This impulsive need for approval is, however, a profound strategic failure. When you announce your plans prematurely or lobby aggressively for every minor win, you commit 2 critical strategic errors. First, you invite sabotage and dilute impact. By announcing the plan before execution, you grant your competitors and critics the necessary time to prepare countermeasures, plant seeds of doubt, or, most lethally, steal your core idea and get to the objective faster. A planned victory, shouted early, is a vulnerable target. Second, you confirm neediness. Lobbying, the frantic pursuit of external validation, is a clear sign of low internal leverage. It communicates that you are desperate for approval and that your internal conviction is fragile. True competence never requires an advertising campaign. It only requires results. Machiavelli defined the ultimate efficiency of power. Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. In this context, deception is the strategic concealment of your methodology. The unannounced win is a superior form of deception because it neutralizes your adversaries without any expenditure of energy on conflict. You win not through the force of argument, but through the superior fact of the completed result. To leverage results and competence, you must operate like a sealed, high-security laboratory. The internal work is intense and continuous, but the results are only released when they are final and irreversible. Work in silence. You must execute the core, heavy lifting of your ambition in complete silence. You deny critics airtime because there is no plan for them to critique, only a functional result for them to accept. This conserves immense energy and eliminates the constant need to justify your process. Results as statement. Your completed work is your only necessary defense. When you deliver a project that is undeniably successful, the result speaks with an authority that no amount of verbal lobbying could ever rival. Deny critics a target. Critics and envious peers thrive on predicting failure. When you announce your plans, you give them a clear timeline to anticipate and undermine. The unannounced win denies them that target. By the time they realize you were successful, it is strategically too late for them to do anything but resent your victory. In a highly competitive workplace where securing a promotion depends on solving a long-standing operational bottleneck, the lobbyist loudly announces their plan to the team and manager. I'm going to spend the next 2 months working on a new system to fix the bottleneck, but it's very risky and I need help. This approach invites skepticism, exposes the process to potential sabotage, and creates sustained pressure. If the project fails, the failure is public and spectacular. In contrast, the strategist quietly identifies the solution and works privately and intensely for 2 months, securing resources covertly. When the system is 90% complete and shows clear, measurable improvements, the strategist presents it directly to the director. I have successfully implemented a new workflow that reduces Q3 delivery time by 20%. The system is now fully operational. This method avoids resistance, denies critics the chance to attack early, and delivers a powerful, undeniable success that shifts the question from, "Did he work hard?" to, "How quickly can we adopt this solution?" Through silent competence, the strategist transforms ability into undisputed authority. The ultimate goal is to build an identity where people expect powerful results without knowing how you achieve them. This creates legacy over lobbying. Your quiet work leaves an enduring mark that transcends the temporary, self-sabotaging noise of self-promotion. The strategic journey to dismantle the illusion of busyness is now complete. You have systematically acquired the definitive blueprint for winning through strategic scarcity, replacing the destructive habit of frantic activity with the absolute power of focused, visible control. You have now achieved the ultimate state, time sovereignty, the synthesis of scarcity and focus. Let the totality of this strategic knowledge now fuse into your unshakable reality. The process began by establishing Law 1, the scarcity trap, demanding that you eliminate time leakage and make your calendar high-cost capital. This foundation was secured by Law 2, the power of intentional inaction, where you learn to wield absolute stillness, silence, and the pause to compel respect and interest. You reinforce this structure by mastering Law 3, visible focus, replacing the low-value signal of multitasking with the high-value projection of deep, deliberate work. Your defenses were fortified by Law 4, the quiet no, eliminating the weak reflex to apologize and over-explain your boundaries. You then executed Law 5, attraction over pursuit, shifting your energy from chasing approval to becoming the sought-after resource. Finally, you completed the fortress by adopting Law 6, the unannounced win, leveraging competence and results so they speak for themselves, denying your critics airtime, and building legacy over lobbying. The world will try to convince you that success is about how much you do. Machiavelli teaches that success is about what you strategically refuse to do. You have learned that the world forgets your emotional effort. It only remembers the patrimony, the tangible, visible results of your focused effort. You must now make a binding commitment to time mastery. Every moment spent in unnecessary activity, every email answered instantly, every trivial meeting attended, is a direct vote against your own sovereign future. The challenge is immediate and non-negotiable. Your environment will test your new boundaries instantly. They will demand immediate access and attempt to provoke your old, desperate programming. You must silence that inner voice and choose the strategic action. The man who has truly mastered this discipline requires no frantic explanation. He requires no apology. He simply asserts his will and lets the effectiveness of his outcome serve as his only defense. You are no longer the supplicant who hopes for high value. You are the architect who dictates it. Your final, non-negotiable task is to commit to this time-sovereign identity without flinching. Your controlled availability and your refusal to explain your schedule is precisely what compels them to respect your terms and value your presence instantly. That knowledge, the unblinking certainty that your focus is high cost and non-disposable, is the single most powerful move you will ever make in the competitive arena. Make your commitment binding. Drop this final, irreversible affirmation into the comments. My dominion is absolute. My time is non-negotiable.